Welcome to the PG E-Pathshala Computer Science stream. In the Web Technology course, today we are going to see about a new module called as PHP. First, let us go through the basics of PHP in this. This is what we are going to learn today. So, our objectives of this session is to understand the functionality and usage of PHP, to learn how to install and deploy PHP, and to understand the usage of basic variables syntax which are available in PHP. Now, let us see before going to the PHP, let us see what is a server-side programming. Basically, PHP is called as a server-side programming. Okay. You can see that a request has been made from the client for a static site. Static means no change is taking place. The server from the client side, it looks into the server for the home page and it sends a server sends a HTTP response. Now, you can look through the diagram. Client is on one end, client sends a, this is what the client which sends the HTTP request through get method or post method. This is what sending this kind of request to the server. The server is identified by this public IP. On the other hand, the server sends a response of web content which is of HTML files. All of them is going to be a static content. You can see HTML, CSS and JavaScript. All of these things gets executed on the client side. Okay, simply this has been retrieved from the server to the client. That is why we call it as a request to a static site. Now you can see the difference. This is a request to a dynamic site. Dynamic site in the sense the server must respond dynamically to the client side based on the request of the client or based on the situation in which the client demands. The client can demand something based on the date and time. The client can demand something about the some specific things from the user, and it can ask some of the contents of the database using forms, authentication, etc. In those cases, the server cannot fetch the file as it is. The server has to look up the things that go on user profiles. It should go through whatever is processed, whatever is getting processed on the request, and based on the request something has to be processed and returned back to the client. Here you can see the client is requesting for the Facebook. Even though the Facebook, if you say www.facebook.com goes to the index page, but depending upon the validation it changes. Based on the user, the particular profile of that user has to be loaded with the wall post and the friends cache messages, database lookups, everything has to be made particularly for the client who is making this request. So, this varies from one client to another client. Okay. Then it generates client side code containing these things and it sends us a HTTP response back to the client. So, this is what happening in a dynamic site. Simply it cannot fetch the pages, but it has to respond it has to respond the content based on the specific usage of the user or profile of the user. This is what the request to a dynamic site. So, now let us look through the introduction to PHP. We have seen that PHP is a server-side scripting language. Like ASP and JSP, PHP is also a server-side scripting language. This can also be called as hypertext preprocessor. PHP scripts are normally executed on the server, not on the client. PHP supports many databases like MySQL, Informix, Oracle, Sybase, Postgre, Solid, generic ODBC, Oracle, everything it supports. And the foremost advantage of PHP is it is an open source software, it is freely downloadable, it is free to use and it is not being controlled by a single entity or a single proprietor. Now, who has made this PHP? PHP is being developed by a group of developers since it is an open source. The PHP syntax resembles very much like a JavaScript or an action script in different ways. The PHP is free to download and free to use, and PHP is an interpreted language. There is no need for compilation, it is not compiler dependent, it is an interpreter language. And this PHP is very faster than any other scripting language, even it is faster than ASP and JSP. Now let us look through the characteristics of PHP. What are the main characteristics of PHP? PHP is web specific and it is open source. We have seen this earlier. Scripts are embedded into static HTML files. It look like a static HTML file, but the PHP script has been embedded over the HTML files. And the execution of scripts can be very fast when compared to the other scripting languages. Even the access to the database can be more faster. And this PHP is supported by almost all of the web servers and operating systems. Even this can be supported by many standard network protocol libraries like IMAP, NNTP, SMTP, POP3, etc. Okay. And the other main characteristics of PHP is this may be supported by many database system libraries also, and this can also produce dynamic output of any text, HTML, XHTML and any other XML file. This can also produce dynamic output images, PDF files, flash movies, etc. Again, it possesses text processing features. This is a fully featured programming language which is suitable for complex systems development. Now, let us look through what a PHP file may contain. PHP file may contain text, HTML tags and scripts. PHP files are returned to the browser as plain HTML. Plain HTML in the sense PHP file can contain text, HTML tags and scripts. Using a PHP parser, this could be evaluated, or this could be parsed or processed in the server side. Once the parsing or processing is over, the output files are returned to the browser as a plain HTML. Now the browser receives this file and displays the output on the browser. Now the PHP files may have various file extensions like .php, PHP3 or PHTML. We can use any one of the extension. Now let us see what are the capabilities or what are the things in which a PHP can do. So the PHP can generate dynamic page content. We have seen already it is not able to produce only the static, it can also produce dynamic page content. And this can create, open, read, write, delete and close of files on the server. The PHP can collect form data also, that is the user forms can be filled up, and this can send, this can create, set, send and receive cookies. And PHP can add data, delete, modify or any kind of data manipulation operations in our database, and this can be used to control the user access. PHP is also responsible for encrypting the data, and with PHP we are not limited simply to output the HTML. Sometimes we can also output images, PDF files, flash movies, etc. We can also output the text such as XHTML, XML also. These are all the wide capabilities of PHP. Now, the same thing, why all the people, even though many server-side languages are there, why people moved on to PHP? Since PHP is platform independent, it can run on various platforms and it is more compatible with almost all the servers which is used today. That is Apache server, IIS, everything can be made use of it. It supports wide range of databases, wide range of platforms and wide range of servers, and it is free. You can download it free from the official PHP site www.php.net. And this is of course easy to learn and it runs efficiently on the server side. Okay. Now let us see how to get a PHP support on a web server. Okay. We can install Apache or IIS on our own server. Then we can install PHP and MySQL. So three things are required. First, Apache or IIS server can be installed. Over and above, PHP can be installed along with MySQL for database activities. For this module, instead of trying these three in a three different combinations, simply we can install a thing called a XAMPP server, XAMMP, which is a 3-in-1 software. It comprises of all the three, PHP, MySQL and Apache. Or we can find a web hosting plan which consists of both PHP and MySQL support. Okay. If already your server supports PHP, then there is no need to do anything. Simply we can create the PHP files in the web directory and the server will parse them automatically because it is free. Most of the web hosts nowadays offer PHP support. But if our server does not support PHP, what we have to do? Definitely we have to install PHP. Now let us see the ways in which PHP can be installed and deployed. So the PHP program can be run under various servers like WAMP server, XAMPP server, etc. Now let us see what is this WAMP server and XAMPP server. WAMP server means this server is used for web development program, which helps in creating dynamic web applications. Okay, so whenever we want to create web application, then we have to seek the help of this WAMP server. XAMPP is another kind of server, which is XAMPP server is a free open source cross platform web server package. Okay, this is an open source. I have told you already, 3-in-1 software comes along with this XAMPP. Okay, now let us look through how can we install and deploy the PHP using XAMPP server. So using XAMPP server, we can if we want XAMPP server, we can download it from the following link. The link is displayed to you: http://www.apachefriends.org/en stands for English version, XAMPP-windows.html. From this you can download the XAMPP server. After downloading, just follow the following steps to start the XAMPP server. So step 1 is installing the XAMPP server. Okay, once you press install, or let me assume that you have installed the XAMPP server in C drive. Suppose if you have installed in C drive, then appropriately you have to go to the folder called C XAMPP, because htdocs would have been created inside the XAMPP folder. So we have to move on to that folder. Under that folder, try to create your own folder. For example, we are giving the name as sample. Then obviously it looks that is under the XAMPP server and under the htdocs, the sample folder has been created. Now let us create our first PHP program in XAMPP server as add.php and name it as add.php. Okay. Now you can go through that. The entire HTML code is available with a head, title, head and body. Inside the body, the PHP script has been embedded with it. You can see that the question mark PHP hash operator print, where the question mark says that the PHP code is going to get embedded, and in the last but above line you can see that the question mark gets terminated. So within the question mark and PHP, the entire PHP code has been embedded here. Okay, so inside it you can see some heading H2 has been given, PHP program, which is to add 2 numbers. Simply you can understand now, value 1 has been assigned as 20, value 2 has been assigned as 20. So sum is equal to value 1 plus value 2, so which echoes the result as sum. Okay. So this is a sample program. We will see step by step what is a variable, what is a constant and everything inside the slides. Okay. Now you can go through that after creating the program, what we have seen in the earlier slide. Now we can double click on the XAMPP control panel on desktop. So you can see the screenshot there. Apache is there, MySQL is there. You have to start Apache. Once the Apache has been started, all of these things gets displayed, which says that the Apache server has been started. So the icon appears on the bottom. You can go through this. Up here it says that the Apache has been started. If you want, you can start the DB also, but one is for MySQL. Okay. Now once the XAMPP server has been started, simply if you type localhost, simply if you type http://localhost on your browser and you press enter, this kind of web page will get displayed, which says that the XAMPP server for Windows is running on your system. So if it is perfect, then you can run your program. This is what the way in which you have to deploy your server. So once the server has been deployed, now you can go through your own folder by giving http://localhost/sample. If you type all of these things here, the below screenshot will come to your screen, because we have created a folder called sample under XAMPP htdocs. So this is what called as index of sample. Under the index of sample, you can see that the add.php is shown, because this is what the PHP file you have created under the sample folder. So this will be visible to you. Now you can click on add.php. So simply in the earlier step, if you click on add.php, the results of the PHP will be displayed here. It says that this is a PHP program which is to add 2 numbers, and the 20 plus 20, sum 40 has been taken here. So this is what the result of it. So This is the way in which we can install and deploy the PHP. Okay. Now let me summarize you once again. You can download the XAMPP server. From the XAMPP server, after installing it, under htdocs you can create a folder called a sample. Under the sample you can create a any PHP file like this. Then the server has to be started. Once the server has been started, you can check whether the server is running or not. Once the server is running, you can go through the folder what you have. Under this folder you can click the specific file, then the results of the file will be displayed to you. Okay, so this is what the installation and deployment of PHP. Now let us look through the history of PHP. So PHP was found in 1995, which says that personal home page tools. Okay, so initially CJ scripts were written in C. Later it goes to PHP Fi scripting language. This engine was rewritten by Zeev Zuraski, and again the parser of PHP has been rewritten again. Then in 2004 it comes to a version of PHP 5, which is a current language version. So this is just an evolution from script collection to scripting language. So like PHP, we have other scripting languages, which is ASP based on Visual Basic and JSP, which is based on Java. Okay. Now let us look through the self-processing of PHP pages. So the user always click or type the URL through the browser. The browser makes a HTTP GET request to the server. Now the server runs the PHP file, which creates the HTML file as an output, and this HTML has been served from the server to the browser again. The browser renders all the HTML tags, that is the markup tags, and it displays the output to the user. Again the user wants to enter something, and based on his data he wants the result. This is what we call it as dynamicity. So enters form data and he submits something. Again the HTTP GET or POST request, either using GET request or POST request, it hits the same URL with the data which is given by the user. Again the PHP script gets run on the other end. This creates the HTML with the result. Again the resultant HTML tags will be served from the server to the browser. The browser renders this markup tags and displays to the user. So this is the whole working functionality or whole working stream of PHP pages. So these are the three main uses of PHP. So the very first use is it is more useful for server-side scripting, because this is the most traditional and main target field. That is, since it's a server-side scripting, it consists of, it needs three things, which is PHP parser, a web server and a web browser. PHP parser to process the scripts, a web server which needs, a web server is needed to connect this PHP installation, and a web browser to access the PHP page through URL. And the second use of PHP is command line scripting. Command line scripting is we can run a PHP script, or we can make a PHP script to run without any server or browser. We only need the PHP parser in that way. So if we make like that, in that way it is very similar to Perl. It doesn't require browser or server. Using the command line itself, the scripting can be processed like a Perl. Then the third usage of PHP is writing client-side GUI applications. What is this client-side GUI application? This is probably, but this is not a very best language to write windowing applications, but there is a graphical toolkit which is available with the PHP, which is called as PHP GTK. This can be used to write window applications or GUI applications. So these are the three main usages of PHP. Now let me consolidate the advantages of PHP. This is included inside the HTML pages. All our work can be done or saved in the same directory. A single file can contain both HTML as well as PHP code. This is much easier to maintain the web pages. This greatly improves the tasks like dynamic page processing, checking sample HTML form, and database connectivity. Okay. After consolidating the advantages, let me go into the syntax of PHP. Now let us go through the syntax. Already we have seen that a PHP script can be placed anywhere in the document. Okay, that is anywhere in the HTML document. If we place anywhere in the HTML document, then definitely we have to say where the start of PHP is and where the end of it. So starting and ending has been given like this. You can see in the monitor, it starts with the question mark PHP and it ends with question mark. And the default file extension is always going to be .php. Sometimes if we follow shorthand support, then in that case, simply the scripting can start with the question mark and end with the question mark. But for maximum compatibility, it is always recommended to use the standard form question mark PHP, and it has to be ended with question mark. Okay. Now you can see that at the top of the thing, question mark PHP question mark. A PHP file normally contains HTML tags. That is what we have seen. Apart from the HTML tag, it is going to have a scripting code. Now you can go through the example which has been given in the slide. That is question mark PHP echo hello world. This is what the PHP script which has been embedded in it. The question mark PHP and the question mark at the last which says that the PHP scripting has been done. Inside it we have a thing called as echo hello world. Echo is nothing but which is used for display or print the text which has been enclosed within quotations. Okay. So hello world will be the output for this. Now from the above syntax, you can understand that each PHP code line has to be ended with a semicolon, because semicolon is a separator which is used here to distinguish from one set of instructions from the other. Then there are two basic statements to output the text with PHP. Either we can use echo or we can use a print statement. In the example above, we have used the echo statement for the hello world. Sometimes we may use print also. Okay. If the file, only if the file has a .php extension, the parser can execute it. Suppose if the file has been saved with a .html extension, then the PHP code will not be executed. It is treated as a HTML file. Now again you can go through one more example. Again it looks like a HTML, again it is looks like a HTML document, but the file has been saved as hello.php. Some heading of my first PHP has been given, and again inside the PHP embedding echo hello world. So again it prints the heading h1 as well as the echo of hello world. Now this is something about our echo statement. This is the basic statement. Echo is a language construct which is not a function, so we don't need to use parenthesis. But if we want to echo or display more than one parameters, then obviously we have to make use of parenthesis. You can go through the syntax echo string argument 1. So if it is simply argument 1, then it can be enclosed within double quotes. Suppose if it is going to have more number of arguments, then obviously it has to be enclosed within parenthesis that you are seeing. Okay. Since the echo hello by PHP echo, it is having only one argument, it was not embedded inside the parenthesis. And this echo statement can be used to print the string, multi-line strings, escaping characters, variables, arrays, lot of things can be printed using this echo. Now the second one, variables in PHP. Now let us see what is a variable. Variable means it is going to be the name of a memory location which contains data. And you all know that variable is a temporary storage that is used to store the data temporarily. So in PHP, a variable can be declared by a $sign which is followed by the variable name. So the syntax has been given to you in the purple color. Dollar variable name is equal to value. Here variables are used for storing values, that is numerical values like text strings, numbers or arrays. Any kind of value can be stored inside these variables. So once a variable has been declared, this can be used over and over again in our script any number of times until the entire script gets completed. Now we can see one example for the usage of variables in PHP. Okay. So the PHP code embedding has been started. Inside it, str is equal to hello string. Str is a variable name because it started with dollar. So $str is equal to hello string. Then again variable x with 200, variable y with 44.6. Using echo statement, string is the corresponding value of the variable should get printed. Again integer is corresponding value of the variable, float is corresponding value of the variable gets printed. Okay. Now we can go through some of the rules of the variables in PHP. So normally a variable can have a short name or it can have a more descriptive name, but descriptive name is advisable, then only we can follow the programming rules. So the variable naming rules in PHP is every variable should start with a $sign followed by the name of the variable. Variable name must start with a letter or the underscore character. It cannot start with a number. It can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores, and always the variable names are case sensitive here. So this is more case sensitive. So the two different ages has been given below. These can be considered as two different variables. So we should be careful about the case. And the major advantage of PHP is it is a loosely typed language. Loosely typed language means the variable declaration doesn't require any data type declaration, or it can be coupled to any data type in which the value has been assigned to it. That is what we call it as a loosely typed language. In the example above, you can notice that we did not tell anything in any variable declaration that to which data type it has been belonging. You can see here we didn't have any data type declaration. So this automatically converts the variable to the corresponding data type of the value. So that is why we say it converts the variable to the correct data type depending upon its values. But if we go for other languages like C, C++, Java and all, these are all typed language. Typed language means the programmer must declare the name and the type of the variable definitely before using that variable. Okay, but this is loosely typed. It can convert the variable automatically based on its value. Now we can go through the scope of the variables. How many kinds of scope the variable is going to have? There are three different scopes: local scope, global scope and static. Let us look into it one by one. This is global scope. Global scope means a variable which is declared outside a function has a global scope and can be accessed only outside a function. You can see that x has been given as 5. So inside it, variable x inside a function, but echo once you print it outside the function it is accessible, but inside the function you cannot make it. This is of a local scope. Local scope means a variable can be declared inside a function and it is having a scope only inside it. You cannot access it outside of the function, that you can see here. And this is of a global keyword. The global, if you declare the variables along with the global keyword, then irrespective of inside the function or outside the function, you can make use of it. So this is what we get 15 even though if it is inside the function or outside the function. Now let me tell you about the constants. Since variables is over, let us look through the constants. A constant is an identifier for a simple value. Constant means obviously it is going to be a value. PHP constants are names or identifiers which cannot be changed during the execution of the script. So the constants can be defined either using the define function or using the constant keyword. Okay. So conventionally PHP constant should be defined in uppercase letter. You can see how to define a constant here. The syntax, either we can make use of define function or we can make use of the constant keyword. This is an example which makes use of the define function. The define function consists of 3 parameters: name, value and case insensitive. Name specifies the constant name, value is the value of the constant, and default value is false, means it is case sensitive by default. If you make it true, then it becomes case insensitive. Okay. You can go through one define: message, comma, hello Java, t.php. So message is a constant name. According to that constant name, the value hello Java point has been assigned to it and the message has been printed. This is the second form in which you can see that a constant keyword has been used. Message is again the constant name and the value has been given inside the quotes. Now the constant variable, that is echo message, which is constant name, has been printed here. Now the next one is how comments are getting used in PHP. There are 3 different types of comments, or PHP supports 3 different types of comments. The first one is called as shell style comments. Shell style comments means this is denoted with a hash. Hash, this is a comment. Second one is similar to a C++ style comment. C++ style comment, you can see that this is denoted with a double slash like in our C++ or C. C style comments, in which it is a multi-line comment. It starts with slash star and it ends with a star slash. This is a multi-line comment. This all you have studied with C and C++. Now, there are 3 different data types with PHP. So, PHP data types are used to hold different types of data. So, there are 8 primitive data types which can be categorized in 3 different types. Totally there are 8 primitive data types, but this can be categorized under 3 things: scalar types, compound types and special types. Under scalar types, we can have the subtypes as boolean, integer, float, string. Under the compound types, array and object. Under the special data types, there are 2 things: resource and null. These are the PHP data types. Let us learn the remaining syntax of the PHP in the next session. So, in this session, we have learnt about the need and characteristics of PHP. We have learnt how to install and deploy PHP in web servers, either using XAMPP server or WAMP server. And we have learnt about the usage of sample PHP scripts, how to embed it in HTML code with the question marks. And regarding the syntax of PHP, we have learnt about the usage of variables, constants, comments and data types. Remaining things let us look after in the next session. Thank you.